Today we're going to analyze what is likely to happen until the end of fiscal year with the Visa Bulletin for EB2. Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm not a lawyer. In this channel we talk about green cards like EB2 NIW or EB1A in which you can self-petition. These are merit-based green cards. You don't need a company sponsoring you, you don't need that job offer, and you can even do it without a lawyer. A do-it-yourself case. So let's talk about Visa Bulletin today, but we're going to talk about it not from the point of view of one particular Visa Bulletin, but trying to see what can happen in the coming months. And I've said it many times, I don't do predictions. I don't come here and release a video trying to sell you what is going to happen because I'm not a fortune teller. You know, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I could have that crystal ball. I would use it to tell you what is going to happen with the Visa Bulletin, and I would use it to win the lottery. I don't have it. So if you want to read more about my opinion on predictions for the Visa Bulletin, I have that video that I will leave a link also in the description, and you can see my whole opinion about YouTubers that try to come up with predictions. In this video, I'm not going to do that, but we are going to talk about the future based on the data we have from the current and the past Visa Bulletins and also the demand for this EB2 green card. So trying to bring a little bit of reason to this unreasonable field of predictions. Just last week, the April 2024 Visa Bulletin came out. I released a video that you can go and rewatch with all the information about EB2 and EB1, these green cards that we typically discuss in this channel. And I had a very upbeat tone because it is true that the Visa Bulletin for EB2 advanced 2 months in April. And that is always good news, especially in a time that the Visa Bulletin had been a little bit slow. I tried to be a little bit positive, but that positive tone made that some people left criticisms of my positive tone because they wanted more. And I agree with that ambitious tone that some commenters had. And let's take a quick look at those examples of the comments. This one says, 1 to 2 months of movement for some countries is good, but not great at all. EB2 NIW really deserves a big change in priority date movement. It's not priority date, it's dates. Another one says, how can this be good news? It advanced only 2 months in a quarter, so in practice, the delay increased. It is not even following the calendar. Table B did not even advance, and also prediction of no more advance in the coming month. Where do you see the great news, buddy? Are you mad? I mean, first of all, I'm not your buddy, and I may be mad, but you wouldn't know, right? So no, I don't think I'm mad. I was trying to say, look, we got a 2-month jump. In the previous months, we didn't see that kind of news, so that was good. Now, it is true that there was something in this Visa Bulletin in April that I did comment at the end of the video. That is that footnote that I always like to go and check, and we checked it together in that video, and you could see that USCIS and the State Department was saying that for employment-based categories, there's not going to be a lot of movements going forward, and that is what I have here on the screen. So this footnote, section E in the Visa Bulletin, that you can go to the Visa Bulletin and check how it is indeed there. You can see that they say employment-based categories, very little to no forward movement is expected in the coming months since the final action dates for many categories advanced for April 2024. So they are saying, we give you this 2 months advance for EB2, for example, but don't expect that this is going to continue moving forward. What I kind of missed in my video for the Visa Bulletin is the second paragraph. I'm not sure if I didn't see it or I was just going too quickly. I didn't stop and talk about this. They do say that these projections for family and employment categories that they give in section E of the Visa Bulletin indicate what is likely to happen throughout quarter 3 and quarter 4 of fiscal year 2024. So in my video, I did fail to mention that. I said, well, we don't know if they are talking about the coming couple of months or they are talking about the rest of fiscal year. Remember that with this April Visa Bulletin, we are opening quarter 3, so we only have quarter 3 and quarter 4 left because the fiscal year for USCIS goes from October to September. So in September 2024, that's the last month of fiscal year 2024, and then October starts the new fiscal year, and that means that there will be fresh visa numbers. That means that all those quotas will reset. So for example, for employment-based green card categories, we have 140,000 green cards available per year. That means that in October, that number renews, and we again have another 140,000. And that's why we typically see a jump in dates in October. And this year is the first year that the agencies go also quarter by quarter, so they release visa numbers based on the quarter. That's why April had better news than previous months. That's why January had better news than other months. And we hope that that will continue, so July would be expected to be another good month. However, with this information that the Visa Bulletin tells us, we are now losing hope that that is going to happen, that July is not going to be that good of a month, because they are literally telling us that these projections, very little to no forward movement, will be happening throughout the rest of the fiscal year. Okay, it is important to understand this. It is also important to keep reading and see how they say readers should never assume that recent trends in final action date movements are guaranteed for the future, or that retrogressions will not be required at some point to maintain number use within the applicable annual limits. The determination of the actual monthly final action days is subject to fluctuations in applicant demand and other variables. So here the agencies are reminding us that they have a system to follow. They have 140,000 visa numbers for the whole employment-based green card categories. Depending on the demand, the dates will move more or less. What they are thinking is, based on the numbers they already have, they don't think the dates will really advance moving forward until the new fiscal year. But they are also telling us, look, we could deviate from what we are predicting here. Maybe we actually need retrogression. And remember, retrogression means that dates move backwards. Okay, so that's really the nightmare of green card applicants. When you go see the next Visa Bulletin and the date moves backwards, that means that you have to wait longer. That has happened in the past, and that could happen again. We shouldn't rule out that kind of scenario, okay? So in this video, we're going to now see what has been going on in the recent months, and at the end, we're going to talk about what is my opinion on what is likely to happen in the rest of this fiscal year. So where April leaves us, let's see the number of months to current. How many months should you wait right now for Table A to become current? So let's start with that, with Table A. And this is what we have been seeing since the end of 2022. At the end of 2022, we were coming from a lot of months that I'm not even putting here in the plot, where EB2 was current. I mean, it's hard to believe now, but not so long ago, EB2 in the Visa Bulletin had a C. That meant that you could actually submit, if you were in the US, you could submit your I-140 and your adjustment of status together. If you were abroad, you would submit your I-140, get it approved, and immediately you would be transferred to the National Visa Center to go to your consulate or embassy. Okay, so that seems now so long ago, but it wasn't. I mean, look at this, November 2022, that's when the dates started appearing in EB2 because of demand. They couldn't meet that demand, and the dates started showing up in the Visa Bulletin. And the months to current, so that's the number of months that one person would have to wait until Table A allows that person to become current based on the priority date, it started going up. And it went up, especially after March 2023. It went suddenly really up, and in a matter of just a few months, we were already crossing the line of 14 months to current, okay? So a little bit over a year. And actually, if you see this graph, we have become pretty stable since April 2023 to April 2024. For the last year, there has been fluctuations, ups and downs, those months that are not great news in the Visa Bulletin, then those months that, oh, good news is going down, so that has happened, especially good news around the start of the fiscal year. But overall, pretty much stable scenario for EB2 in the last year until last week when we knew about April 2024. What happens for adjustment of status? People that are in the US, where can they file that I-485 form? Well, this is a similar graph, but this takes in account both table A and B. So some months, USCIS lets you use table B to file your adjustment of status. And some months they say, no, you have to go by table A. Usually at the beginning of the fiscal year, they allow you to use table B, which is more advantageous. And usually towards the end of the fiscal year, they will ask you to use table A, which is not so good. So beginning of the fiscal year, table B. End of fiscal year, we have table A. Then the new fiscal year starts, we go back to table B. And now recently, they ask us to go to table A. So that's why we see bigger fluctuations than in the previous graph that only took into account table A. That's the table everyone follows, adjustment of status and consular processing applicants. That's the table that really mark the end of everyone's process. But if you're in the US, you can look at this graph to see the months to file adjustment of status, okay? Depending on the table you can use. So what we see in this graph is that, the situation fluctuated more than table A only, but just because of that that special situation where you may use one or the other table. So we are looking at somewhere between 9 months and 16 months to file an adjustment of status in the recent 2 years, right? So now what we're going to see next is what I think is going to happen in the rest of the year. But before that, let's quickly talk about my 2 websites, because if you are serious about this EB-2 NIW green card process, I invite you to visit eb2niw.info. You have a lot of information there, a lot of articles that you can read, articles with my videos on them, my material that you can download. You have a lot of resources as a do-it-yourself applicant. Above all, what I recommend is that you check out my online course. In that course, you have everything organized. I have lectures, exclusive videos that you cannot find here in YouTube. They are structured in modules, 9 modules, each module with a bunch of lectures. They are both in English and in Spanish, and you can submit questions in each of those lectures. You can learn how the requirements work, how to fulfill those requirements, how to put together your petition cover letter, your professional or business plan, recommendation letters, and again, submit questions in each lecture. And now we have monthly live sessions. As I'm speaking here, I'm preparing the live session for tomorrow, where I'm going to meet the course members. We jump in a Google Meet call and we actually see each other face to face and they can ask questions. So check it out. And now let's go back to the video. So what is next with the rest of the fiscal year for the Visa Bulletin? I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. So let's take a look. A very likely scenario, assuming that the Visa Bulletin gets completely stuck from now, from April to the end of the fiscal year, September, what happens? So this is the graph we have been, we just saw earlier for table A, months to current. We are now hovering in 14, 15 months. So if nothing happens, what is going to happen is that this number increases month by month, 1 month each month that passes. So by the end of the fiscal year in September, we would be at 19 months, so almost 20 months, okay? EB2 is likely to reach the highest historical backlog based on the Visa Bulletins, because we have never crossed these highs here, okay? And it is likely that we will see that wait time of 20 months at the end of the fiscal year. This is just what I think is the most likely scenario, unfortunately. So be ready for this situation. And that's the whole purpose of today's video, to make you aware of this and to make you ready, because if you have immigration plans that you need to take, if you need to think about a visa that you need to transfer to so you can remain in the US legally, you need to take your best guess as to what is going to happen. Actually, I would say you have to take the worst case scenario so you can really have a decent plan, a plan A, a plan B, a plan C for your visa status, so you can keep your visa status all the time while you're waiting for your EB-2 NIW date to become current and you don't get in trouble with USCIS. So what happens if we see a retrogression? So here in this hypothetical scenario, I'm assuming 2 months where the Visa Bulletin shows retrogression, and that's why compared to the previous graph that was a straight line, now we see little bumps up, and that is of course bad. That means more wait time, and we would reach pretty much 24 months. This is hypothetical, of course. We would reach maybe 24 months. I put 24 months because a psychological barrier is 2 years exactly. So, and it is also not very far from the 20 months that it will be without retrogression. So we could be seeing retrogression. That has happened before. That could happen again if the demand keeps being very high, if a lot of people keep submitting adjustment of status petitions to USCIS and a few other people keep going to the consulates and all that, then we could reach that moment where USCIS says we need to push the dates backwards. So retrogression will kick in and we could reach that 2-year wait time. This is less likely, probably. I assume that they did a pretty decent job now at predicting what is going to happen. But, you know, they, even if they do a good job, if the demand suddenly spikes, then they don't have much to do, okay? So what about a best case scenario? I'm sure some of you are asking, well, you're giving us the worst cases, like no change at all, no good news from now to September, or even worse, retrogression, and we see even more wait times. What happens if USCIS is mistaken and the Visa Bulletin, a couple of Visa Bulletins do advance? Well, I don't think that's very likely, and that's because demand has been very high throughout the last 2 years. This is fiscal year 2024, number of approvals for I-140s for EB2, and this is for 2023. And you see that there's really no signs that the demand is weaker now. If anything, the demand is slightly higher. Of course, we don't have the fresh data because USCIS releases data a little bit slowly, but there's nothing that indicates that the demand has been soft. So with the demand remaining the same or similar, we can only expect that the Visa Bulletin will be stuck or get worse. Now, it's not impossible. Here's what I said here, you know, it is unlikely that things will get better soon, but unlikely is not impossible. It is possible that, you know, because we are not seeing the latest data, because USCIS doesn't release data immediately, maybe in the recent months there has been a weakening of the demand for EB2, and suddenly, you know, in 2 or 3 months we do see good news in the Visa Bulletin. Personally, I don't think that is going to happen, so I put it in the unlikely bucket. Not likely to happen, not very probable. Now, I hope time will prove me wrong, and I hope you can come back here in a couple of months and said, you were wrong, you know, and that would mean that things actually moved, and I will be very happy even if I'm wrong, okay? So conclusions, I don't know what's going to happen. No one does unless you are a fortune teller, and this is a joke. It's a joke that I always make. I don't have that crystal ball, but nobody does. So stop listening to YouTubers out there that will give you the exact date for the next Visa Bulletin because they don't know, okay? So don't spend time on those things. Spend time on doing the analysis on the next half a year, on the next year, so you can plan your visa movement. You know, if you need to transfer your visa to another student visa or to a worker visa or whatever it is, but don't go and try to find the answer for each month prediction because they don't know about it, and you are just going to get anxious, stressed, and it's not going to help. It's not going to help anything. What you should focus on is, if you are still filing for I-140, focus on your case, on crafting a good petition, a petition that will have the maximum chances of success. Put all your motivation and effort on that and stop with the predictions, okay? That's my recommendation. Based on data from and the comments from USCIS and State Department, it is likely that we are going to see wait times creep up to 24 months to current. I mean, I just show you the data. I think that is likely. I hope time proves me wrong, but we'll see about that. The hope is now on October, Visa Bulletin. That's the first month of the new fiscal year 2025. We hope that it will deliver a step change that we can all benefit from. EB2, EB1, India, China. I hope with fresh visa numbers, we're going to see a change there. But with the demand this high, don't expect miracles, okay? The next fiscal year will start, you will not see EB2 going to current unless something dramatic happens. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am sad that I'm today, the other day I gave you the happy news. So today I'm giving you the other side of the story. I hope you are not frustrated by this. I just try to prepare you in all ways possible. Of course, a good way of preparing yourself is to go to my website, check out the online course, enroll, and prepare the best case possible for yourself. All right, this is it for today. It's already a pretty long video. I'm going to see you next week, and until then, good luck in your green card journey.